What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Optimize You podcast. In today's episode, we're going to dive into why doing too much cardio might be sabotaging or killing your goals and your results, and what to do instead. Let's dive into it. All right, so this is a pretty cool topic. I've talked to quite a few people now just recently within the past month who have been saying or bringing up the topic of cardio and how they're excited to do it. They're anxious to do it. They want to get the right running shoes. They want to engage and embark on their new health and fitness journey, especially with the new year coming up. And it seems to be the topic that's on people's minds in terms of being able to get results. It's one of the first things I hear all the time is, I'm going to do my cardio. I'm going to be able to go to the treadmill. I'm going to be able to run outside. If the weather's really bad, then I'll be able to go to the gym and do things there, like, etc. And it always has to do around the aspect of cardio. Cardio is great. Cardio is phenomenal. Cardio is great for improving the overall heart health, right? Cardiorespiratory health, etc. We all should be doing some form variation of cardio, elevating our heart rate multiple times a week. The issue that I see is people are using cardio and they're using it as their main source of calorie burn or their main source of fat loss. Is it a source of calorie burn and fat loss? Yeah, absolutely. And it can be a phenomenal one. The issue is people use it and accept it and try to integrate it as a long-term approach in their journey. The downside with that, and the downside with using cardio consistently for fat loss and to be able to reach your goals, is that you have to do more and more of it to be able to yield a similar output that you once did. For example, if we use a mile, let's just say hypothetically you burned 300 calories by running a mile. I'm just using this as an example. You burn 300 calories during a mile. As you get more efficient at the process of running, you build better cardiorespiratory, you start to breathe better, you get better heart health, you can expend less energy in that same output, which will require you to do more to burn those same 300 calories, right? So instead of that, you burning 300 calories, performing that mile that you did when you first started, you're going to have to increase the distance to be able to burn that same 300 calories. So you keep pushing the wall back further and further and further, which requires you to do more output to be able to yield the same calorie burn that you once did before. So that becomes the challenge with it. Again, nothing against cardio as we're going through this whole thing. Cardio is phenomenal, but using it as your main source and setting a platform of going, okay, I'm going to continue to do this for the rest of my life, and I'm going to use it as my main source to get to my goal, oftentimes sets people up for failure. Not everybody, but more times than not. And the reason for that is because it's not sustainable, right? If you're trying to get to your health and fitness goal, the name of the game is consistency. So now if you're somebody who you can go out consistently, you can perform your cardio, you can continue to extend your duration, the intensity, etc., so that your calorie burn remains high, and you can do so injury-free, then I'll tip my hat to you, props to you, like you did a phenomenal job. Now, for the majority of people who are sedentary, who aren't doing anything, and they're relying on cardio, higher impact stuff like running, jogging, they haven't been doing anything, right? And they want to increase, and they all of a sudden want to start running, going from sitting on the couch to running. There's going to be a lot of progression in there. There has to be very slow progression. Oftentimes I see people try to jump to what they once could do, or they try to jump to what their friends are currently doing or what a class is currently doing, and they're not quite ramped up to that speed yet or what they once were at. And they do a little bit too fast, a little bit too quick. All of a sudden they're facing shin splints, an ankle tweak, some sort of variation of injury, and it's setting them back. And it can be discouraging. It can be enough to throw in the towel. It can be enough to create and be super frustrated. And I get it. I think we've all been there. If you've tried, you've been there before. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. What's an alternative to doing that? What's an alternative to just relying solely on cardio to be able to lose body fat and be able to get to your goals, right? And so if you have health and fitness goals, and especially with the new year coming up, you're probably already thinking on that same track. I'm going to encourage you to think a little bit differently and try an alternative this time around so that it actually sticks and you keep your results. If you've been failing in the past and you're solely trying to just increase your cardio and, pump up the amount that you're running and use that as a sole mechanism to be able to get to your goal, I'm going to give you some alternatives here. And so One of the downsides to doing cardio like that and using cardio like that, especially if you're making that transition from not doing much at all to transitioning into just straight running, is you are going to experience likely an injury, right? And so hopefully we don't, but the likelihood and the risk factor exponentially goes up when you're like, I'm going to go from not doing anything to I'm going to be running 5 days a week or 3 days a week or even 2 days a week, right? You can start with walking, right? Go a little bit slower. You can do a walk jog. You can progressively build into that. One thing that doesn't really get talked about is the ability to easily overdo it, right? And what I mean by that is you can experience higher levels of stress by adding more and more and more cardio. And the thing that flies under the radar that people really don't think about is in doing that, we're sending a stress response to our body. And anytime our body is under stress or duress, remember cortisol levels are increased, are elevated in the bloodstream, in the body. And with that, we're sending a signal to our body of survival, right? It's a stress mechanism. And by doing that, it's very easy to see plateaus in the process too. That's why cardio can be super frustrating, is because we don't know it, but we may be potentially overdoing it, overexerting our body, sending high levels of stress to our body, which anytime we're doing that and cortisol levels go up, our body taps into survival mode and we hold on to body fat. So it makes it very difficult. We're sending conflicting signals. We're trying to do as much cardio as we possibly can. We're stressing ourselves out doing it. And we're sending the signal of my mind wants to go, hey, I want to do more cardio so I can burn more calories. I can burn more fat. Not understanding the stimulus that we're sending to our body is high stress, high cortisol, hold on to body fat. And so you have these conflicting signals going back and forth from what you're actually trying to do and what your mind is telling you to do. And so it can be very frustrating. You're like, man, I'm doing all this work. I'm putting all this time in. I'm putting all this cardio in. Like, what's going on? I'm hitting a plateau. Things were moving really fast until they didn't, right? Until they stopped, until they slowed down. And then that's the area where you can be extremely frustrated in. And so some alternatives that I'm going to give you to help you through that is you can include the cardio a couple times a week here and there. That's great. But what I'm going to encourage you to do instead is shift your mind and your focus to building muscle. And I say building muscle not as a bodybuilder, but building muscle because as we age, we are losing muscle mass at a rapid rate. Muscle is one of the leading causes and leading factors for essentially death, right? Because we're not able to brace ourselves as we fall. You see a lot of people, I have people in my family that have done that. They fell, they couldn't support themselves, and unfortunately, they couldn't recover from it. And you see it time and time again. As we age, our ability to build and maintain muscle mass diminishes. It gets less and less and less. So if we're not proactively doing something about it, I need you to ditch the mindset of, if I focus on building muscle and getting strong, I'm going to become a bodybuilder. If you haven't looked this up, look up 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of body fat. You tell me which one looks bigger, right? It's very obvious. Lean muscle, a 5-pound slab of muscle is extremely lean. It's about half the size of 5 pounds of fat. Remember, those things weigh the same, but the amount of volume that the fat takes up versus the muscle will hopefully get you to shift your mindset, will hopefully get you to go, okay, the more lean muscle tissue that I build, I will be able to reach my goals faster because the more muscle mass I have on my body, the more calories I burn at rest, the faster my metabolism is, and the more overall I'm going to boost everything energy wise, et cetera, burning calories at rest, et cetera. Like all those things work in my favor and to my benefit versus relying something solely just on cardio where yes, I may be burning a lot more calories in the process if I can sustain what I'm doing, but we're also, if we're not increasing the amount of strength training or resistance training that we're doing, we're also losing lean body mass in the process, strength, we're losing muscle, right? And so as we age, remember, we're already losing muscle. We're already deteriorating slowly but surely as we age. You're accelerating the process if you're not doing some form of strength training or resistance training. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Make sure you're doing that. The other thing is, instead of transitioning directly into running, like I know a lot of people want to go right into running for their cardio variation, think about total daily energy expenditure. And one of the easiest and simplest things that we could do is take steps, is walk, right? So recommendation would be 8 to 10,000 steps a day or 1 to 2,000 steps more than what you're currently doing right now. Okay, so if you have your iPhone or Apple Watch, if you guys have those on you as you're going about your day, you can pop open the health app. It's a little white background with a pink heart on it, and it has a pedometer in your phone and in your Apple Watch, and it's going to track your steps per day. And that's a quick, easy way to check how many steps you're walking in a day. Some of you guys might be surprised if you never checked that before. It might be a lot lower than you think, right? And so striving for 8 to 10,000 plus steps a day might be like way out of this ballpark for you. Maybe you're only walking 2,000, or maybe you're walking less than 2,000 steps per day. You have a very sedentary job. You're not very active during the day. And you'd be surprised. I have people lose 50, 60, 70 plus pounds. We don't even touch a weight yet. We just start with walking and changing their nutrition, right? And so it's extremely possible to reach your goals doing something as simple as walking. Don't overlook the power of walking, because unlike cardio, like full on running or jogging, you are going to be able to do it for longer periods of time more consistently, and the likelihood and the risk for injury is a lot less than going out and running or jogging. So keep that in mind. Remember, this whole game is about consistency. So what can you do day in and day out? Cardio is great when you can do it, but if you're constantly facing injuries, you're feeling banged up, you're feeling stressed, like those things are going to limit the amount of work that you can do, versus we can walk every day, right? Hopefully you can. And if you're blessed to be able to do that, then you should take advantage of it. Never take it for granted. So 8 to 10,000 steps, or 1 to 2,000 steps more than what you're currently doing, progressively building up to that 8 to 10 plus K range. And you'd be surprised. Even if you just did that, and that was the only thing that you changed, you would start to see your body start losing body fat, burning fat as fuel, and being able to get closer and closer to your goals if you just did that alone. So the two things that I'm going to recommend, of course, if we're talking about nutrition, that'll be a whole different podcast, but that's the biggest needle mover, right? But the two physical things that you can do right now are resistance train, right? Strength train, anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. If you're not doing anything right now, I would start at recommending 3 days a week, full body splits. And then if you can, preferably learn how to do the compound movements. Though that is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, right? Full body splits. That way you get a little bit of everything on each session that you do. If you can split it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, however you want to do it. You can do back-to-back days as well. That's the beauty about doing full body splits, and why I recommend it. I would do that, and then add 1 to 2K steps than what you're currently doing right now, with the goal of progressively building that up to 8 to 10,000 steps. Start with those two things, because you can be extremely consistent with those two things. The risk for injury is way lower than if you go out and try to run cardio every day, like how your goals and how your ambitions and how your thought process may immediately be jumping to is like, okay, as soon as we hit January 1st, my goals are to be healthier. I want to lose body fat. That means I need to burn more calories, which means I need to do more cardio. And if you're in that mindset, I'm going to encourage you to shift your beliefs a little bit over to including some resistance training and doing something as simple as tracking your steps per day in that progressive fashion like we talked about. Hopefully this helps. If you give it a try and you do it consistently, I'd love to hear back from you and your results and how you crushed it and killed it. I promise you, if you are consistent with it, there's no such thing as working against the law of thermodynamics. It's a real thing. Those steps in your resistance training are going to put your body in a position where you're constantly going to be progressing, and growth is going to be happening, and you're going to be super happy. So if you do engage in that, let me know. Send us a message. We always love to hear from you guys. And share it with a friend, a family member, somebody you feel like could benefit from it. And we will catch you guys on the next one.